Welcome to Coastal Conversations, the weekly podcast from Coastal Church, where we explore meaningful topics that shape our daily lives as followers of Christ. In Colossians 4:6, Paul encourages us to let our conversations be full of grace and seasoned with salt so that we can respond wisely to everyone. Through this podcast, we aim to live out that calling together. Thanks for tuning in. I have a very special guest on the podcast today. You are going to love today's episode. Jody and Jody's family go way, way back with Pastor Chad and me. And when I say way back, to the OG, her mom, Amy, served on staff with us as a business administrator years ago at a church that we all served together at. During that season, Jody was growing up. She was a young girl, and she was a faithful member of our youth group called 180 that Pastor Chad and I led during that season. It was a very large youth group. You've heard Pastor Chad tell stories about that youth group before. But Jody was faithful. She was involved. She was a server. She was a greeter. She was very popular. So we loved having her because not only that, but she would bring all her friends from school because she was kind of like a leader and people would follow her. So when I say faithful, every time the doors were open, her family was there. Obviously, I said her mom served on staff with us at church. So when I tell you just grounded in the things of God, Jody knew God and she knew the things of God and she had a relationship with God at that age. But as things progressed in her life and she grew up, Jody's life took a very destructive turn. And so today you're going to hear a true prodigal miracle story. And I do not say that lightly. I know everybody's story is a miracle, but when I say this child's story, and I say child, she just told me she's almost turning 40, that will date me. So we're not going to talk about that. But when I tell you this child's story is a true prodigal miracle story, it really, really is. And here's the reason that I'm bringing her on. There's a couple of reasons. One, you know that we are in our year where we have launched this thing called Greater. And this month, our greater focus is on the drug rehabilitation centers and programs that we as Coastal Church support. Pastor Chad introduced that to us last Sunday. One of those things that we support here at Coastal Church through Greater is the Baldwin County Drug Court. You're going to hear a little bit about drug court just in a different vein today, but you're going to hear about drug court today and how it has impacted Jody's life. So I wanted her to bring her on and talk to you about that so you kind of have a context of that. But two, I wanted to bring Jody on today to encourage any of the parents out there, our grandparents out there who have prodigal children whose life was raised one way, they were taught one way, but by their choices, they took a different path. I want to encourage you that there is always hope. As long as there's breath, there's hope. To never give up. Jody is not only a miracle, she's a miracle because of a praying mom. I can't tell you the number of times Jody's mom texted me, I need you to pray now. Pray now. This is going on. Pray now. Jody's mom always kept her before the throne of God and encouraged others to pray for her. And because of that, Jody is here today to tell her story. So please help me welcome to Coastal Conversations today, a very special girl to me, Jody Sellers.
Thank you for
Hi,
having
Jody.
me.
I'm so excited. Thank you for being here. This is a big step.
Yes.
Because you've told your story in support circles.
Yes.
And in large groups of different gatherings and banquets and stuff, but really never out there on the internet.
Never on the internet, no.
So we're going there, but so many people need to hear your story. Like I said, it not only brings awareness to the programs that are out there for people that have your testimony, but it also gives hope to parents and grandparents whose children maybe have taken this same path as you have.
Yes.
So without further ado, I want to kind of get us started. I want you to give a brief introduction of your story, but I want to dive a little bit deeper when you do this. I really want to talk about growing up first. Okay. Tell us about your growing up years. Jody is a little girl. Jody is a student, those kind of things.
Okay, so I guess we can start off by my mother was in high school when she got pregnant with me.
Yeah.
I was a year old at her high school graduation, and she and my dad went on to get married. He's 3 years older than her.
Mhm.
So I was 1 year old Jody on my mom's hip at high school graduation.
Yeah.
And so I grew up with young parents. My grandparents were really, really active in my life. I was very close to my dad's mother and my mom's mother. And so growing up, it was, we were always in church, always. We used to go to church at White House Fort Pentecostal Holiness Church with my grandmother. And so, we were in there, about a holiness church.
Mhm. That's right.
So, and then I think at that time we had actually gone to a Baptist church.
Yeah.
We went to Eastern Shore Baptist with my parents. And so, I can't remember exactly when it was that, we went to Eastern Shore Christian Center together, but basically we grew up in church.
Yeah.
And we had a very Christian family, a very I want to say strict upbringing.
Mm-hmm.
My parents, they didn't take any mess.
Mm-hmm.
And so, when I was growing up, I was the oldest, and I have two younger brothers. And my mom remarried whenever I was 4 years old to my stepdad. So he's pretty much all I've ever known. And growing up, we gave him a hard time because if anyone knows my stepdad, Tim, he's a man of few words.
Yes.
But and he was a stickler. He didn't, he's
a hard worker.
Yes, he's a very hard worker, and they had high expectations for us, put it that way. And so I grew up. My dad was in my brother's life more than mine.
Mm-hmm. Your real dad.
My real
Tim.
dad. Yes, my real dad. Tim was there through
all
and
the
through.
time. That's
Tim's
right.
faithful Tim, that's one thing. He's always been there. And
he's just steady.
He really is.
Mm-hmm.
And as an adult, we gave him a hard time growing up. We did. And that's probably one thing as an adult I look back on and I'm like, because he is my favorite person. Mm-hmm. In my adult years. He really is. He is dependable. You can go to him, you can tell him anything, and he will take it to the grave. He is the definition of taking a secret to the grave.
Yes. Yes.
So I just love him and I respect him so much. And so we had a good childhood. It was a normal childhood. I didn't really get in much trouble at all. What does it say in Proverbs? The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction.
Yes.
I took that to heart, not only with the Lord, but with my parents.
That's right.
You can make your life as hard or as easy as you want it to be.
That's right. Yeah.
And so I knew that if I didn't do what they wanted me to do, then my life was going to be very hard.
Yes.
So, that's and
it was, and
it was.
You were from what I remember, and now that didn't mean like you weren't fun and had fun and went out with your friends and had fun and just a normal teenage girl, but when your mom told you to do something, you did it and you obeyed, and
most definitely,
and you were in church, you were a leader, and so, and your mom and dad instilled all of that stuff in you guys.
They really did.
At a very young age on a consistent basis.
Yes.
Like it wasn't like they were in and out of church or, it was just steady.
It
was very steady. So in everyone's eyes, they did it all the right way.
Most definitely
They did everything you were supposed to do.
Yes.
Which I encourage parents a lot of times to not get discouraged. Those seeds that are planted at an early age, those seeds are still there.
They are everything.
Yeah.
They are the difference, really, at your lowest point, life and death.
Yeah.
They are. Those seeds are so important. Mm-hmm. I mean, that you never forget them ever.
So we don't see the results of the seeds that we're planting in our kids' lives when they're young, but we're constantly planting seeds that one day we hope that, God's promises us they will. God's word does not return void when it's planted in a life. So tell us, at one point your life began to take a different path.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about that and what happened.
So as I got older, and I was in, let's say, high school, a lot of my story has a lot to do with other other people. And so I'm going to kind of tiptoe around that because it's not my story to tell.
That's good.
And, but, there was a time around in high school that our family went through like a transition process where we no longer went to church for different reasons. And at the time, we were sheltered from that. We didn't really know why we stopped going to church.
And
we
none
just
of it was
knew.
y'all's fault. Yeah.
We just knew that we did and that we were going to, follow after our parents. And so that was a hard time in our family. That was the first time that I had gotten opened up to a whole new world of a family outside of church. And it wasn't for anything that my parents did by any means. I know that now as an adult, what they went through was, it was hard. Yes. And so, it was being church hurt, now I know that. So, but as a child or a teenager, a young teen, looking back on that, it was, oh, well, now we just don't go to church. Well, now I've seen my parents drink for the first time, and again, not taking anything away from them, but it was just a different world that we were opened up to. And it was things that we had gone our whole life without seeing. And so it was strange. And I think it was an adjustment for all of us. I know it was a rocky time for my parents and even in their relationship. And it was a rocky time for us too, because they tried to shelter us from as much, but we could see the changes.
It was just a lot of hurt y'all were all going through.
Yes.
Especially your parents were going through a lot of hurt and just managing that hurt in that season.
And I'm sure that they were very lost. Now being an adult, I'm like, God, now I know what y'all are going through. You went through. And at the time you were trying to be strong for your children. Yeah. But there's no book on how to be great parents.
That's right.
And so now I could sit here.
No one's a perfect parent.
No. And I could sit here all day long and talk about, well, my parents, they didn't do this or they didn't do that. And that's the reason. And at the end of the day, it had nothing to do with my parents. Yeah. They did everything and above and beyond.
That's right.
They really did. So it had nothing to do with them. But yeah, it was just some transitions after that.
And so you got exposed to a new set of friends.
Yes.
And so tell me about that. What happened in that?
So in high school, I had a good group of friends. But once I graduated, I really lacked always in my mind direction. And when just for myself, I never really knew what I wanted to do. All my friends had these plans, these great plans, and I'm going to go to this college and I'm going to get this degree. And I had always felt like I never knew what I wanted to do. Yeah. I didn't. And graduating and being 18 and having more freedom that I did not have while I was living with my parents. I started going out more, testing the waters, doing everything that was unacceptable to my parents under their rules and their house, and, just experimenting with things. I ended up getting in a relationship with a boy and, and like I said, I take full responsibility for everything that's happened in my life, but I was opened up to things that I had never been around, never experienced. And so actually the first drug that I'd ever seen, I didn't even know what it was. I walked out at a party. I was dating this guy and I just thought he was the cutest thing in the world. And here I go and he's outside and he's got some sort of drugs out on a magazine. Yeah. And he's with his friend and I'm like, what is that? They don't answer me. Well, if you're going to do that, I'm going to do it too. Yeah. And I did not even know what I was putting in my body. Wow. I had no clue. Yeah. And it was just looking for validation in the wrong places. That's exactly what it was. Yeah. Wanting attention at the wrong attention. Wrong attention. Yeah. And I would do anything in the world to get attention. And it happened to be from, men a lot of times. Wow. A lot of times. Now that I'm older, and a lot of counseling later. Yes.
Hours of counseling. Yes. Fast forward.
I realized that, a lot of it boils down to, my stepdad was always in my life. And my dad too, as much as he, as a young dad, knew how to be. I was always wanting to have more time with him and or attention from him. But at the end of the day, he didn't know what to do with a girl.
Mm-hmm.
And it was easier for him to take on my brother and take him hunting and fishing and stuff like that.
Wow,
And
okay.
it wasn't, so I always looked for validation in men, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And, now I know some of the sources of that's from, so yeah, it took a while though. And it took some mental awareness to know.
So you meet these people, you get introduced to drugs one night at a party.
Yeah.
And then from there, did it just take hold, or was it a slippery slope that began, and then where did it end? How did it?
Okay. So from there it went, did drugs that first night. And then once people that do drugs in front of you, they see that you're okay with them doing drugs in front of you, then it's like an outpour of all of it.
Wow.
All of the junk. If they can trust you with this, then they're going to trust you with everything else. And
Mm-hmm.
it's never just one drug, it's all of them.
Mm.
A lot of people are like, well, smoking weed is just okay. And there's nothing wrong with it. It grows from the earth. It's not just smoking weed.
Mm.
Because once people see that you're okay with that, then comes the cocaine, then comes the methamphetamines,
Mm-hmm.
then comes the pills I've stole from my mother, then comes the whatever else that they secretly do in private.
Mm-hmm.
They now do openly in front of you because they know that you're okay with it.
Wow.
So it was a new relationship. I had just found out, and honestly, at the time, I had always struggled with depression and anxiety growing
Mm-hmm.
up, off and on. A lot of the thing with depression is you hardly ever can pinpoint why you're depressed.
Right.
You just know that you are, you know
Mm-hmm.
that you're sad, and I had a hard time speaking to people about how I felt.
Mm-hmm.
Going to my parents, speaking to them about.
I remember that about you.
Yeah.
I do, now that you say that.
Yes.
You never really would share how you felt.
No, I was very closed off.
You masked it very
I did.
well. Yeah.
I did. I always put a smile on and act like nothing was wrong, but I was screaming on the inside.
Wow.
I really was. And so with that, and just once I tried the drug for the first time, it was like, wow, I feel great. I feel normal. I think this is how people normally feel. I'm not sad. I'm not depressed.
You're not anxious.
I'm not anxious. Yeah. It's a numbing yet alive sensation, like, a feeling. And so that is the first time. Well, of course, that was enough to get me addicted. It really was. And so
just one time.
One time. So once I initially did drugs for the first time, I was 19 years old. It went on for 2.5 years straight, every day. I moved in with my boyfriend. I had cut my parents completely off. I didn't speak to my mother, and whenever I did see her, I was probably 80 pounds soaking wet. I was lying to her, telling her that I was stressed out and I couldn't eat and things like that. And I know she knew, I know she knew something was going on, but she had never been around anything like that before. Yeah. So she didn't know what was the cause or what to do. She probably assumed that it was drugs at the time, but she did not, really couldn't say that because she didn't know what drugs did to people. Right. And she had never seen it. So that rocked on for about 2.5 years until my body shut down, my kidneys.
During this 2 years, you're getting deeper into this community.
Oh, deeper. Yeah.
And the sources of the drugs are you selling it at that point?
I'm not selling it at that point.
Yeah.
That came later.
Okay.
But we were the craziest things, and I can look back now and I'm just like, Jesus, I know you were with me, and I know you had a plan for my life, because anyone else would have been dead. Yes. They would have. If you were done with me, I would have been long gone, because I was no longer serving a purpose on the face of this earth other than existing to get high. That was it.
Now, and did your addiction grow from just one drug? Did it morph? Did you have to try different things to reach a different high?
It did. It did. Well, once the people knew that I was okay with the cocaine, it then graduated to, we were taking the drug dealer to Atlanta, going to these neighborhoods that no one that is Caucasian should ever go to.
Oh gosh, okay. So it was scary.
Yes, it was scary. We did not belong there, and you could tell.
Wow.
And people with guns everywhere going into houses and getting just huge amounts, which we didn't know at the time. We were going because we would get free drugs out of it. And so we would bring him back, and then he would give us these free drugs. But it just escalated from doing cocaine every day to people smoking meth around me. And then you want to try this? Well, you're okay with this. This is 10 times better. So try this. Wow. Trying other things. So by the time that went on for 2.5 years, and finally one night my whole body shut down. And I got rushed to the emergency room. And that's when my mom and my dad really knew, okay, we have on paper, here she is, she's about to die. I had 105 temperature. My body, I had for hours and hours and hours.
Your body was shutting down.
It was. I had sepsis because both my kidneys were shut down. And the doctor I remember looking at Mom, and they're like, she's got ecstasy in her system. She has marijuana. She has Xanax. She has cocaine. She has methamphetamines, this array of things that I have in my system. And the doctor's like, if she does not stop this, if she makes it through this, she's going to die if she continues to live like this. Yeah. So that was actually a point in time where it scared me. It did. It scared me. And for, I think 2 years after that, I was on like a clear liquid diet. I had to do like different things for my kidneys and things like that. So yeah, that happened. And then, I was sober for a while, enough to have my son, Jackson. And I stayed sober until Jackson was about 5 years old. He was about 5. And
so several years.
Several years I did. Wow. And then I can't even remember what happened, but I know that once you have that, you open yourself up to that life and you do struggle with mental health. It's an easy Band-Aid to put on top of, oh, I feel depressed. Well, you don't feel anything when you're high. Oh, I have so much anxiety. I don't want to go out of the house. Oh, well, you don't feel it whenever you're high. And so it's constantly, it's the devil. Really, it is. You know, it's people say that, but it is. Yeah. That is, doing drugs and opening yourself up to that world is the closest that you can be to hell on earth. Wow. It is. It's like, it's not a waiting. Oh, when I die, I probably will go to hell, because no, you're already in it. Wow. You are. You're opening yourself up to all these demonic forces. You see things, you hear things, and a lot of people think that it's from the drugs. Yeah, that has a lot to do with it, because you're depriving yourself of nutrients, and you're pushing yourself to the limits where you're not getting sleep for weeks sometimes. But you're the closest to hell that you can be on earth. You really are. And you feel it too. Yeah. You do. You do. And so yeah, that just, it got worse from there.
So after Jackson is 5, then what happened?
So Jackson's 5. So he is,
by the way, the cutest kid.
He's the sweetest too.
I mean, well, now he's 17 like Evan, but
yes,
even when he was little bitty, he was so cute.
He's got those big old eyes.
And remember his cheeks, how big they were?
Yes,
gosh,
yes.
He was so cute.
I'm so proud of him.
Side note, just because he was cute. Okay, he's 5 years old. Tell us what happened, Sam. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, because I can go on for
no, days. He's amazing.
He really is. But so around that time, I can't remember exactly what it was, but I know it was a really hard time for me. I was just really struggling with depression, and it was probably one of the darkest times in my life. There's a lot of things that I'm trying to edit it out just for, I don't feel comfortable yet talking about everything. Yeah, absolutely. But that was a turning point in my life. And so instead of getting help and going to find a counselor or telling my family that I need help, I went right back to numbing with drugs. And so that was the only way. And, that was the worst time in my life, because there's 2 years there that are completely black to me. Wow. I don't remember I don't, and it's funny though, because I prayed to God a lot to take away the hurt that I had during those years. And so I don't know if it was God's way of giving me mercy.
Yeah.
Or if it was just because I was so blackout belligerent, you know, it's probably a little bit of both. Yes, to be completely honest.
But we'll take the mercy of God that He will cover that. Yeah.
Yes, and I believe that's because He knew that mentally I just couldn't deal with it.
Yeah.
And so that's probably whenever the drug addiction peaked.
Wow.
At that time. So it was really, really heavy. I started, well, that wasn't when I started to get actually charges, get in trouble with the law then, because that comes with drugs. Anytime that you are doing drugs and you're hanging out with these people that live these lifestyles, if that's what you want to call it, it's not really living. It's just like
existing.
It is. It's just a dead end cycle, and you just repeat every day. So, but you are hanging out with a lot of people that do a lot of illegal things. It was so funny because I had myself convinced that, oh, well, I'm a functioning addict because I go in the bathroom and I get high whenever my son's asleep, or I don't take him in the car with me to pick up drugs, or he's never seen any drugs, and he's eating, he's going to school, he's being fed, things like that, then I'm still being a good mom. So, I had I'm telling myself this, and I can't help but laugh because this is the type of conversations you have with yourself whenever you're an addict and
you're rationalizing everything.
So, rock on, and I meet my youngest son's dad. And I had known him for a long time. And
so back it up at this point, when you meet him, are you in trouble with the law at this point, on and off yet?
Not at this point.
Okay.
Not at this point. I had gone for minor things. I'd gotten pulled over for, minor in possession of alcohol. Okay. I got in trouble for that, just being 20 years old, and I had bought some beer at a gas station that let us buy beer.
Little did they know.
And we got pulled over. I call those minor things, just because there was so much more that I did.
Yeah.
It's like a misdemeanor and then a felony.
Right. Which one?
I forget about those a lot of times, but I had been with my youngest son's father. We got pulled over one day on Mother's Day, actually. His mom had told me to go pick him up and just bring him home for Mother's Day. And I was like, okay. So I went, found him, brought him home, and here we are. We're going through Perdido. It's in Baldwin County, and because they live out in Atmore and Porch, and we get pulled over, and he has a plethora of things in his truck that we are driving that I was unaware of. Very. And so here I am, and it's like a buffet of things that the cops are laying out on the on the hood of the car. And he's like, yep, that's mine. That's mine. That's mine. That's mine. And I'm like, the only thing that's mine in here is my purse. So we both end up going to jail that day. Yeah.
Wow.
We do. And so that was a minor incident. So that was kind of like the beginning of it.
Okay.
That was when it was still funny.
Yeah.
We could laugh that off.
We can move on, pay the ticket. We're gone.
We can come back from this.
Yes.
So, he had a couple of mishaps where he would go in and out, but I always called him the luckiest person in the world because he'd always get out. And, I wasn't so lucky. I wasn't so lucky. So, we get pregnant with my youngest son. And, at the time, I was sober.
Okay.
As soon as I found out I was pregnant, I was like, I'm completely sober. I quit smoking cigarettes and everything. And I was like that until Cash was about 14 months old. And then right back to it. I didn't cut off the people that I hung out with.
Yeah. And that's a big part of it.
It really is. And so, at that time, I just started back again. He would go to his grandparents, and they would see him for a little bit, and then that's when I would get high, and then it just became an everyday thing. Yeah, and it does that before you know it. I mean, especially if you struggle with mental health, you have to be so careful and really talk to your kids about this because I was scared, like I said, scared. And I don't know why I was scared to talk to my parents about struggling with depression and anxiety so much. I don't know, because it wasn't like I couldn't talk to them.
Right. Yeah.
I could. But I think me just being so inward with my emotions and stuff and not wanting to open up. And I don't know why that is, but I suffered for a long time.
Yeah.
I suffered with it for a long time, and I found a way that helped me cope with it. And that was by putting a Band-Aid on it with these drugs. And I didn't mean to get addicted to them, but that was the way that I chose to cope with my depression every time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it wasn't until I actually got help and, got into some of these programs and started doing different things that I knew that you don't have to do this. Like it's okay to suffer from anxiety and depression, but there's these resources out here, these people that want to help you. And there's these non-narcotic drugs that you can be on that will help you, because maybe you just have a chemical imbalance.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it was that easy.
Well, fast forward. So Cash is born, 14 months. You start back.
Yes.
And then when does it really hit rock bottom for you?
Okay. So, Cash is living with me, and, Jackson's back and forth between my house and his dad's. Well, I gradually got back on drugs then. It was easy. My friends kept bringing it around. Well, it got really bad once I realized that I couldn't go a day without it.
Wow.
And, one day I woke up and I think it had already, I don't know how to say it. Okay, so Jackson had gone to live with his dad. So my parents, after the first charge that I caught, it was I was in another relationship and I was dating a guy, and we went and sold drugs to a confidential informant that we did not know at the time. Yeah, we didn't know.
Good. Yeah.
And she had this random man with her, and he was a confidential informant.
Wow.
It was people that we knew. So we just wanted money to go to the casinos, the way that we were looking at it. And so we ended up getting a distribution charge from that. And once that happened, I went to jail. Of course, he went to jail. I didn't have any previous charges that would keep me there, so I got to bond out. Well, once I bonded out, my parents were like, you need to go to rehab.
Yeah.
Like, you need to do this. It's not a question. My mom basically did everything but tie me up. She even let the air out of the bicycle tire outside of her house so I couldn't ride down the road.
I remember she was like, pray, I've got Jody, pray. Yeah.
She backed up that day to take me to
and
rehab.
Your mom does not play.
She does not play the radio. She ran into my stepdad's truck as she was backing out of the driveway to take me to the Love Lady
Center. I can't laugh about that because I have backed into Pastor Chad's truck 3 times.
Oh my goodness.
So I digress. We will not go there. Keep going.
Right. So here's Amy, and she's got me, and she's on the way to rehab, buddy. And she's like, okay, well, you're going to do this.
Yeah.
And that was the first time that.
Did you want to go?
No, not at all.
This was against your will.
Done. It was against my will wholeheartedly. She wouldn't even let me out at McDonald's to use the bathroom on the way there.
Yeah.
And we were going to Birmingham.
Yeah.
She was like,
yeah,
you're going to have to go. If you got to go, sister, you're not going anywhere.
So she got you to this rehab.
Yes.
How long was it?
So the program was anywhere from 9 to 12 months.
So you wanted the fast track.
So
Get me out.
Of course I wanted the fast track. So here I am, I'm in rehab, and the Love Lady Center, I cannot say enough good things about that place. I have never missed.
And that's a Christian women's center in Birmingham.
In Birmingham, Alabama. So if anyone out there has anyone that needs a good Christian-based program that will change your loved one's life, that's a female, please consider that place. It's wonderful. It really is. And when you walk in there, you feel Jesus. You do. Your demons do not like Jesus in there.
Yeah,
and
that's good.
I mean, you can feel it as soon as you walk in there. And those people they are definitely walking in their calling. But
you did not want to be there.
I didn't want to be there, and I wasn't ready to change. And I had it in my mind, my way or the highway. And so I went there. I did, and I stayed for 3 months. And then I weaseled my way out, coming back home.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow talked my mom into letting me come back home after 3 months.
Yeah.
And it probably wasn't 2 weeks and I was right back to doing drugs.
Mm.
You know, you can do whatever you want to, say, cry, drop down, beg, do whatever. If someone is not ready to get sober, they're not going to.
Wow.
They're not. And the best thing that you can do for them is cut them off and let them figure it out on their own.
Mm.
That's the best thing that my parents ever did for me.
Wow.
Really. You have these parents that are like, oh, well, we just love them. We'll still feed them, or we just love them. We'll still give them money. That's the worst thing you can do. It is. And I know it's hard.
Because it doesn't allow them to hit rock bottom.
No, it doesn't. And so once my parents were completely done with me, that's whenever the rock bottom happened for me. Mm. I was no longer, I had taken my youngest son, and the hardest thing I ever did, I dropped him off to his grandparents, his dad's parents, and I just didn't go back and pick him up. Mm. And it's hard for me to admit that. Yeah. And it was devastating for me, but I knew in my mind, there's no way I'm having my child around this stuff. There's not. I've got people, I had opened my life up to all these negative people, and they don't respect you. They'll steal from you. They'll come in your house when unannounced at any time, you know, and that's the type of lifestyle that it had become. And so I did. I took him and I dropped him off, and he was supposed to stay for the weekend, and I didn't go back and pick him up because I knew that my life had become unmanageable. Yeah. And it did. And so after that, it was.
And probably shame.
It was
shame.
It was shame. I did not, while I was on drugs, I told people that I hung out with that I didn't have a family, that I didn't have parents, that I didn't know them, didn't talk to them. I would never, because these are not the type of people that you want to know. Yeah. Who you have, you know, and that your parents have a successful business or anything like that. Yeah. So, but yeah, so after that I didn't have anything else to live for, basically. Mm-hmm. And so I went downhill from there. I was on probation for the first charge that I had for the distribution, and I turned right back around and I violated my probation by catching another possession charge a week after I was on probation. Then it went from that to, I'm going to give you a second chance. I'm going to let you out of jail. But then I went on to violate it again, guilty by association. I lived with some people that broke into a cop's house, of all people. Oh, Lord. And I had no clue about it until a sheriff contacted me, and he asked me, the people that you live with, we have information that they've stolen a bunch of stuff. So you need to go through this house and you need to gather up anything that you think doesn't belong to these people and turn it into us. So I did. I was like, I didn't have nothing to do with this. You can have this. This don't belong here. Right. Here I go up to the sheriff's department, turn it in, and they get me with receiving stolen property. Yes. And I was like, oh my gosh.
You were trying to do the right thing.
I really was.
Kind of trying to do the right thing.
What?
I didn't,
I can't even.
You know what? It was probably the hand of God, though, Jody.
It was, because that's whenever I violated my probation for the last time. My probation officer was done with me. My mom was done with me. Mm-hmm. My dad was done with me. My whole family, I was done with me. Mm-hmm. I was tired. So whenever I went to jail that last time, as mad as I was that I actually didn't do it this time.
Right. I'm just bringing you the stuff.
After all the other things that I have done, I did not do this. That was the one that he was like, you know what? We're done with you.
We're sitting here for a minute.
I was like, you know what? I'm done with myself too. Wow. So that was the
that was the felony.
That was the felony. There was 3 felonies. That was 1, 2, 3. That was the third. So rightfully, I should have gone to prison. Yeah. You know, and I thought I was. Mm-hmm. But God stepped in and I got accepted to drug court.
Mm-hmm. So that brings us to this. But one thing I wanted to talk about before we talk about drug court, when you were deep in your addiction, did you feel the Holy Spirit pulling you? And if so, what does that feel like? Talk to that parent out there that is praying that their child hears those words or feels that pull. Like, right. Didn't you feel the Holy Spirit pulling you?
It never stopped. Once you know the Word of God once you've been raised right and you have that word instilled in you from a young age and all those prayers, I mean, there's no way that you can have people that love you and praying for you that you don't feel the pull of the Holy Spirit, even if you're at the lowest of the low. And it's funny because I used to always tell myself, as long as I can still hear the voice of God, I'm not too far gone.
Wow.
I did. I told myself that every day. And, you know, when you're walking like in that type of lifestyle, and like I said, and you're so close to hell on earth, you have to, it's funny because I tell people, and they don't believe this, but my prayer life was probably better then than it is now. Wow. And my prayer life's pretty good now.
Yeah.
But I was so scared every day of my life living like that I would pray nonstop. Lord, please, I don't want this to be my last day here. I don't want to die like this, Lord. Wow. Please, I'll never do this again. You know, and I can't tell you how many promises that I made to the Lord that I had no business making.
He's so good.
But he is so good. But there wasn't a time.
Chad said one time, it's like, once you know the voice of the Holy Spirit, he will guide you. He will chide you. He said at one time, he's like, he will sit beside you on a bar stool in a bar and say, you have no business being in here.
He will.
He will haunt you. It's like one pastor, maybe it was Chad or somebody I heard when he was preaching one time said, it's like the Holy Ghost, bulldogs. You just sick them on them. Like, Holy Ghost, go get them. Make them miserable in their sin.
Yes.
Make them so miserable in their sin that they want to turn to you, God. And so when we're praying for people that are far from God, that know, and that maybe don't know, maybe they weren't raised, but you know, their parent is praying for them. I always say, pray for God to send someone into their life that they will listen to.
Yes. Yes.
And pray that he will make them so miserable in their sin that they just, like you said, okay, I'm done.
Yes.
I'm done.
They have to, and literally pray that God takes the taste of drugs and alcohol out of their mouth.
Wow.
That's the main prayer that once my husband and I came together, we had both been praying the same thing and didn't even tell each other. We were so miserable. I can't tell you that. I mean, that last year of my addiction, I was like, God, take the taste of drugs and alcohol out of my mouth. I want to be physically sick whenever I see it, whenever I think about it, whenever I go to talk about it. Make me physically sick. God, strip me of everything if you have to and get me to stop. Just please help me. And that was my prayer. Wow. So you have, and those work. I'm going to tell you they work. They do.
They do. Yes. And so you have 3 felonies. You're in jail. And how long did you have to stay in jail?
So I stayed in jail for 90 days.
Okay. And then you get out on probation.
I'm in drug. I get out and go straight into drug court.
Drug court. Okay, so that brings us to this. Now, here in Baldwin County, we have a drug court, and that is one of the things that Coastal Church gives to, because it is kind of like a nonprofit thing that we like to support and give to.
Yes.
You were in the drug court in Escambia County.
Yes.
How do I say that?
Escambia.
Yeah. Why couldn't I say that correctly? That was weird. Escambia County. You were there in that drug court, but they're similar. They basically do the same thing.
I believe Baldwin County is a 2-year program.
Okay.
Escambia County's 1.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell us about that. When people give to this, what does it do? How did it help you, first of all? And then what does our money go towards to help? Yeah.
Okay. So drug court helped save my life. It did. When I was sitting in jail, all my mom had told me was that my probation officer was done with me and that I was probably going to prison. And so you talking about, I was in my word, my word.
Yeah.
I did not want anybody talking to me. I paced those floors, praying the Holy Spirit.
That's right.
And I was praying down. I was trying to mentally prepare myself to be able to do a stint in prison is what I was trying to do because I knew I did not belong there. Those women are rough.
Yes.
And so I was like, Lord, just give me the strength. Well, I called my mom one day and she's like, I didn't even know drug court was a possibility. And she said, they're going to accept you into drug court. And of course I was like, yes, because I didn't want to go to prison.
Yes.
But in my mind, I was done. I was. And so I went in to the drug court program with an open mind. And I'm going to tell you, those people, Miss Denise Carlee is over drug court in Escambia County, and Judge Burns, that's who does it in Escambia County. And they are walking in their calling. They are the epitome of forgiveness, grace, fairness, mercy.
Wow.
These people, they love what they're doing because you don't get paid nearly enough to deal with the mess that they deal with from these people that are on drug court.
Does drug court like set you up with a program? Like you have to do these life skill things and teach you things. So tell us a little bit about that.
So you're required to get a job.
Okay.
You have to have a job.
You have to have proof of that and everything.
Yes, you have to have proof of that. Of course, they have to work with your drug court schedule because you have to go to drug court classes. I know in Escambia County, we took classes at the Escambia County Mental Health. Okay. And what are those classes like? They are basically, they're an open group. So and they're with like-minded people, other people on drug court, all from different walks of life. Some could be on there because they were alcoholics and they took drug court to get it off their record. Yeah. Some people are in there because they were like me and they had a lot of charges and years of addiction. Some are in there, they don't want to be in there. You get from drug court what you put in it. Okay. So in these programs, they just teach you in the classes, different ways to cope with drug cravings, different ways to deal with mental health issues. Okay. They offer you counseling and things like that. So you have steps in place that you can fall back on. You don't have to go do the same things that you did before that landed you in drug court. That's great. But I can't speak enough about drug court. And I know Baldwin County's the same way. We went to a convention, I think this time last year, and Baldwin County Drug Court was there. And I know a couple of people that work for Baldwin County Drug Court. And the amount of people that they have helped. Yes. These people that work for drug court, it's because they want to and they have a heart for these people. It's not for the money. Yeah. It just isn't. It isn't. That's right. They don't get paid enough to deal with what they deal with. Yeah. Yeah. The excuses, the things, all they really don't. Yeah. They don't. But it's almost like a court-ordered accountability program that helps you not only get out, but stay out and get sober and stay sober. Most definitely. So that coupled with you going to Celebrate Recovery, which we're going to talk about extensively next week in our podcast, with another lady similar to you that has gone through Celebrate Recovery and things like that. These kind of programs helped you. Yes. Of course, they give you the accountability that you need. You can just get sober. Yeah. Anyone can get sober. And the majority of times it's people that don't want to get sober because they're in trouble or they're on drug court. But the things like Celebrate Recovery and even meetings that, they require you to do meetings, NA or AA meetings for drug court. Those places you find accountability there. You find people that are walking everyday lives. They're not in trouble anymore. They're doing this to help prevent them to have a relapse. Yeah. And, you've got people that are from different walks of life that have been sober for 10, 15, 20 years. And you can see that it is possible. They give you hope. And it's groups of people there that aren't there to judge you. They're not there to, knowing the Lord and sobriety go hand in hand. That's good. You can't do one without the other. That's good. And, I've tried it. I've tried it without the Lord and I've done it with the Lord. And the Lord's the only reason that I'm still here 5 years sober. That's right. That's right. So when you get involved in a group like that and you have that accountability and that openness of being able to go somewhere that's just for you, that you can trust these people to not... You can tell them anything and they don't judge you. Yeah. They understand. That's the type of family that you need to help sustain your sobriety. That's so good. Yes. And you said you're 5 years. What I love about your story, Jody, and I love to watch you on Facebook and your mom's updates and your updates is you've got your kids back in your life. Yes. Your boys back in your life and you see them and Cash lives with you now. I mean, you have him back. Yes. Jackson gets shared custody back and forth and things like that. And he's grown up. Cash has grown up. Yes. You have a relationship back with your family. You have a marriage that is God-centered and beautiful. It really is, yes. And a wonderful husband. He has redeemed fully everything that the devil tried to destroy and steal from you. Every single thing. It is, I still... can't believe it, because coming out of addiction, you have all these piles of problems that you've put off for years. And I tell people, they're like, well, it has to be hard being sober. I'm like, no, it was just a matter of, getting it in my mind and being fed up and making a decision and wanting it. Because once I decided and God knew that I was really serious, everything effortlessly started falling back into place.
That's so good. And then
I mean, I'm not saying it's not work, because it is an everyday work, but every day that I woke up and tried and told myself, you know, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to do the next right thing, the next right thing,
That's
the next
good,
right thing. That's what helped me. And God just started blessing me. I mean, he did. And I still can't believe it. I'm so unworthy, but praise God. He did.
One of the biggest blessings that's come recently is you were just given a full pardon.
Yes.
So tell us about that. I'm so proud of you. Tell us how that came about. And now you can do all the things. You can vote.
I can go hunting.
You can hunt with your family.
Yes.
So tell us about your full pardon. How do you feel?
So I feel like a normal member of society.
That's so good. I'm so proud of you.
You know, it was a 2-year waiting list.
Okay.
And when you go into, you have to be done. You can't owe any money to any state. You can't have a ticket here that you haven't paid. You have to be completely debt free to any state for any legal reasons whatsoever.
So that was a job for you to have to do.
Yeah. So all of that had to be paid off, all restitutions to every, the state of Alabama and things like that. And then I completed my probation and immediately filed for a pardon. And they give you a packet that is this thick.
Wow.
And you have to have all this ridiculous amount of information that is about your parents and your past relationships. And I mean, you have to really want it to fill out this, because it takes about a month to fill out this packet. And you get all these recommendation letters. So you got to really be doing what you claim that you're doing for people to want to put their neck out for you and give you these recommendation letters and speak on your behalf. And so that whole process, it really started like sinking in with me. Man, I feel like I've really made it. I have people that are willing. I've got cops that arrested me that are writing letters of referrals. I've got drug court, Miss Denise writing a letter of referral for my pardon. You know, everything came back full circle. And these people that are like, wow, she's put in the work. She's really changed. And we've seen it. Yeah. You know, and so it is amazing.
I'm so proud of you.
So amazing.
The little girl that I knew, I see that freshness on you. Like, I just see it. It's just the joy of the Lord.
It really is.
And it's just, your eyes are bright. You look free. And freedom looks so good on you.
Thank you.
You've always been beautiful.
Thank you.
I'm so proud of you. All right. Fun last question that we like to come to. We always end every episode with a fun last question. What is one of your favorite things that you think needs to be everyone's favorite thing? Like, it could be a book, a podcast, a food, a restaurant, a drink, anything that you think needs to be on our radar to be our favorite thing.
Okay. Well, couple of things.
Okay.
I'm obsessed with 7 Brew.
7 Brew.
Yes.
Okay. Tell me what your drink is there.
Okay. So I drink the Blondie, and I like the Smooth 7, but it always has to be decaf because I quit caffeine 2 years ago.
Okay.
And they have the best decaf drinks you will ever possibly drink. They are so good. So 7 Brew is a must.
Smooth Blondie, you said?
That there's the Smooth 7 and a Blondie.
And a Blondie.
Yes.
Okay, so we got 2 drinks there.
Yes, and they are so good.
Right, Sean, he likes the drinks. Is that on your radar?
Okay,
we'll
see. Be disappointed.
We'll
they are so
see.
good.
Okay, do you have one other thing? Did you have another favorite?
No.
I thought just those 2 drinks.
Yeah, those 2 drinks and just food. We love food.
I love
Me and
food.
my husband love food. Everyone should check out the Gather in Atmore. That's where we live.
Yes.
And they have a restaurant there called Gather, and it is.
I've heard about that, but I haven't been there yet.
It's worth the trip.
I have heard about that. I need to go out there and go there.
I have people that come. We have people that come from Fairhope to come eat down there and everything. And and you'll always see people from out of town. You have to make a reservation, but it is the best restaurant.
Okay.
And you would never think that it would be a hole in the wall.
Your mom can cook really good.
That's why I look like this.
No, and she does all the things like all the She has embraced.
We love to eat.
She's embraced her grandma era.
Yes, she has.
She has, and she's like, "I'm about to do this."
Her favorite thing is to crochet. She crochets all these hats and things, and then she gives them away. She donates them.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's living her best life.
She is.
Especially now that I'm working at the office and she can work from home.
That's
I'm like,
good.
"What are you doing?" I'm crocheting a hat.
She's living her life.
She is. I love it for her.
Well, thank you for being on the podcast today. Thank you for telling us your story. And I really just cannot say it enough how proud I am of you. God has always had a purpose and a calling on your life, and you are living that out as a mom and a wife, and then helping others. You are using your story to make a difference.
Yes.
And it's not going to waste. What the devil meant for harm, God has turned around fully for his good. You really are a miracle. I'm so proud of you. Thanks for being here today.
You're welcome.
Thank you for listening to this week's Coastal Conversations podcast. All of today's references will be found in the show notes. Also, if you enjoyed listening, be sure to subscribe, rate, and review. We'll see you at Coastal this Sunday as we pick the conversation up from here.